this is putting a tremendous amount of pressure on Bibi. This delay of 2 weeks. It's something that I posited last night in the space and this morning, that the delay in assistance that Trump is causing with his ambiguities about which way he's going to jump, his contradictory statements, the meetings, the leaving the G7 to come to the White House, an emergency meeting. Then we hear about meetings with France and England, who both come to the table apparently asking for America to stay out of it at this point. I think this all puts a tremendous amount of pressure on Bibi because the damage is ongoing. Videos are now and pictures are now starting to come out about the damage in Tel Aviv. We see thousands streaming out of the country, even walking out. I'm not quite sure what border crossing I was looking at. But this is a disaster for Bibi. I think it was a desperate ploy, a last-ditch effort on his part to preemptively attack Iran, and Iran was ready for it. And I don't see that I see that the worst is yet to come in terms of Iran being able to physically punish Israel for what they've done in Gaza and other places. So I think this is also Trump thumbing his nose at the attempts of the Zionists in and out of Washington to control him. And I think this recent move, though it's not a commitment either way, that's what you do when you're mediating or arbitrating a dispute between two intractable parties. You have to become the bigger threat to both and draw them into the middle, draw them to the position where they both have, and I'm thinking Iran and Israel, both have a better alternative in agreeing to a ceasefire than they do to continue the hostilities. I think Trump's put a tremendous amount of pressure on Bibi because he's not committing to the defense. And I don't think Bibi can stand it. I don't think he can withstand 2 weeks politically and otherwise. And so I hope what we see in what I have rumored to be, and I haven't got to confirm for myself, new negotiations, at least between the U.S. and Iran, that we're going to see a fracturing of the political support for Bibi in Tel Aviv, and whether it's Bibi and the existing coalition government, or some fraction of that comes to the table, either seated directly at the table or at least negotiating with the table. I think this is a very hopeful sign, and hopefully this continues.
I appreciate that, Doc. Let's bring Andrew up. He was actually sending me some messages. Andrew, jump in. You said you wanted to give some analysis on what's happening.
Well, yes, thank you. Again, for days now, you folks have been incredible. Real quick, weighing in 3 points here. One is during Desert Storm, I worked out. I retired Navy. I was a retired naval officer. I worked in the Pentagon during Desert Storm, and one thing we need to look at is the logistics. Now, anytime there's something really gets serious with the United States military, when a military push like it was Iraq, is a massive logistics, massive logistic works in progress. That shipping, air, especially shipping for the heavy stuff, air and resupply with your naval assets, both using commercial shipping, container shipping, and the Navy refueling ships. We're not seeing any of that. None of that whatsoever. So it's all going to be, of course, everything from the air, but that is completely any military expert. You can ask Colonel McGregor. I used to talk to Robert Kingston, retired NATO commander. He and I got to be pretty close when I worked the Pentagon stuff. But without ground support in place as a threat, air superiority means nothing, just making these strikes. It's just going to be just like Yemen is right now. Now, second subject, regarding nukes. All right. I personally talked with Scott Ritter 2 days ago, And I'm like, Scott, really, Iran does not have nukes. Now, we have to remember Scott Ritter is intimately aware of and familiar with and has worked with the IAEA. We all know that. The guy is not only I consider him a military expert, but also in the nuclear weapons program. Now, Scott is a no BS kind of guy, and he knows, I'm a retired military officer myself, and he's like, let's be and he got very adamant. I said, Scott, I'm just asking because there's so much bullshit out there. He said, let's be very, very clear. The IAEA, they are compromised, they're politicized, do not believe one word they say. He said, Iran does not have nukes. And he hammered that home. And I'm like, okay, all right. The third point.
Sorry, I missed that. Who are you speaking about?
Scott Ritter.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Sorry, I was just eating something and I have some ginger in my mouth, but I'm trying to swallow it. But Scott Ritter, I wanted to talk to him personally. I followed him for quite a while, and I've talked personally with generals, admirals, and I was on the staff. I worked on the staff I'm in the submarine world, and Commander Submarine Force Atlantic was on their staff for 3 years. I worked at the Pentagon for 3 years, and then I retired, and got into consulting and then the world of academia and teaching. But my point is when Scott now, I know it may seem naive, and I don't give a rip what the other side says. When you have an expert that, I don't care about these talking heads. I want to see what the guy he's boots on the ground, as we know. And Scott Ritter was so adamant. He's like angry because he can see how wicked the IAEA and how it's the same BS. I listened for weeks. Oh, weapons of mass destruction. They have them. Well, I know I'm not going to keep beating that dead horse, but Scott's saying the same thing. Colonel McGregor is saying the same thing. Stop it. Wake up. Don't buy it. Okay. So now the third thing, real quick, as Trump is in Israel, and just like we were talking here, and it wasn't Simon, but I'm sorry, I just sent him a message here. He was talking about Trump being way overrated in the U.S. I agree. Now let's talk about Israel. I've traveled to Israel. I was with and worked with the multi-peacekeeping forces in Lebanon before I went submarine warfare. I saw how jacked up, wicked, dysfunctional, and out of control the IDF is. I almost got in a fist fight with an IDF officer at a 5-star hotel. The bastard was drunk.
Let me just give some news and then I'll give it back to you.
Sure.
So the tweet is in the nest, and I do want to talk about this as well, Andrew. So if you can just land your plane, and then we'll have a conversation about this. But basically, the tweet's in the nest. Bunker buster bomb breakdown for Fordo. The 30-ton GBU 57A MB MOP is capable of penetrating hundreds of meters of fortified underground facility to destroy. And then military analyst Robert Pope said to destroy Fordo, it would take at least 2 bombs hitting exactly the same point. It is technically possible to take it out, and the US Air Force is capable of doing it. But in reality, combat conditions, it has never happened. They would have to hit the same spot several times. Now, you can see from the image, this is from Axios, Zionist-controlled media, but it's decent to look at, is the other bombs, where there's the GBU-39, the BLU-109, the GBU-28, minimum penetration. Now, the US has the GBU-57, but it only penetrates up to 197 feet at best. And Fordo nuclear facility is possibly from 260 to 328 feet down. What that means is, if you can see from the image, that one hit would not even take out Fordo. You'd have to hit the exact same spot many times to be able to do so. And this lends credence to one of the arguments that I believe it was Truth who was making, who said that Trump can't. This is part of the calculation that Trump is making, that he can bomb Fordo, but that doesn't mean he'll take out the nuclear facility. He may claim a victory, but it won't be a victory, and therefore this is one of the calculations he's attempting to make. I do want to hear what from Truth on that, but just before, but I don't want to be rude to Andrew. So Andrew, wrap up your point in 30 seconds, and then I'll ask Truth that question.
Yes, bring it in. Bring it in for a landing here, real quick. Yeah, thank you, Truth. All of you are adding extraordinary information. I'm learning a lot. It was Richard. Richard was talking about Israel and Trump's rating there. We have to know that Trump is looked at as King Cyrus, and I'm not going to go through all that background about King Cyrus. It's really a sick political, religious, Zionist mess there. But the rank and file of your Israelis, I've talked to them. They're like, yeah, we're not buying all that King Cyrus BS. So anyway, I'll land it here. Thank you very much for letting me in. I'll go back to listener. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it, Andrew, and I've sent you a message as well, but appreciate it. Thank you. Let's go to what's his name again? Truth. Truth. What's your thoughts on the? Well, I know what your thoughts are, but I just want you to elaborate on it. Go ahead.
Sure, thanks. Again, I haven't seen their test runs or looked at their results of what they claim they've done. Based on what I have looked at,
Yeah,
and
this
what's
is just let's just base it solely on the Axios, because you're right. Axios may be exaggerating the capabilities as well, but let's just take it as granted and then just explain.
Okay, I mean, we can all agree one shot's not going to do it to hit the same spot twice and have the time to do that, because they strike once. I mean, I don't know how they're going to pull it off with those B2s or B52s, depending on which one they use, which does move slow to an exact spot. And that, again, is presuming they're hitting the correct spot, because it may be a decoy they're hitting, because Iran's already moved the Ferdo facility. They've been given ample time to do it already, and there's 200 Russian consultants that may be helping with that as well. So fat chance, and I believe this is, again, I don't know which type of surface they're testing this on, but there's a lot of rocks in that region. It's mountainous, which makes it even harder to penetrate deeper, much less hit it multiple times and try to have the impact they think it's going to have to create a crater that's going to go down as deep as, potentially 800 meters to have a chance. And even then, there's shock absorbers and other types of insulation that's used to be able to absorb shocks from earthquakes, much less these types of bunker busters. So I'm still skeptical, of course. See it as I think Trump is also skeptical, and that's the reason why he's held off on committing to this mission, because he sees very limited chance of success to actually be able to incapacitate this particular facility. Also, the fact that there's many other nuclear facilities as well. This is just one. So you're going to aim for some kind of blitz to try to strike what you think are a bunch of where the other facilities are as well, in the hopes they're going to be perfect strikes every single time, multiple times. Iran's already struck back in spades, and it's more than just air defense systems. I think we might see the fighter jets then as well, and their fighter jets, if it's the Su-35s they may unveil, they move a lot faster than those B-52s that are slow with all that weight, so they'll have a chance to take it out. In addition, of course, there are defense systems and whatever other missiles they haven't even used that. And the hypersonics will easily strike if they decide to strike at those. They decide to aim for those fighter jets, they'll hit it, and they'll see it coming as well, more than 1,200 kilometers away. They'll have the time to react. So I just see it as a pie in the sky mission with very limited chance of any type of success. They might try to claim a success if they're able to hit it maybe once or twice. I doubt it to hit the same area twice in such a short time span, given how now that Iran is already alert, because it's not going to be a surprise. They've already given it away. They've already stated where they're going to go, and it could happen at any hour of the night. They're on alert 24/7. So he may still do it because he's told to do it, but this is pure cope. And all of the engineering reports I've looked at say that it can't be done, and it's essentially a failed mission. And I believe that's the reason why he's held off on doing it, in the hopes he can just negotiate something with Iran rather than try and fail and lose face. So those are my thoughts.
Appreciate that, guys. I put a tweet in the nest. This is the Israeli minister, Israel's basically defense of chief Israel Katz, and he says that Israel is targeting Iran's supreme leader Khamenei. So now, not only are they attempting to take out the nuclear facilities and attempting to do regime change, but they're also targeting Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei. And he said, Khamenei is the modern day Hitler. Says Iran's supreme leader cannot continue to exist. And if the IDF had existed during World War II, they would have eliminated Hitler in his bunker. That is from that tweet's in the nest, and it is from the Israeli. So this seems again like, remember these, because these become these are their objectives. But later, when they fail their objectives, then they kind of blag it, or they won't admit those are their objectives. You know, in Gaza with Hamas, their objectives were to dismantle and completely eliminate Hamas, which was a failure. They claimed their second objective was to get all the hostages released. Again, that didn't happen, and they've had multiple opportunities to do so, but they've never been bothered about their own hostages. They've been killing their own hostages. But in reality, so that was their verbal objective, and in reality, all the real objective has always been genocide and ethnic cleansing. They've succeeded in that. Here, they are claiming that their objective is to eradicate Iran's nuclear capability, to kill the Iran supreme leader, Imam Khamenei, and also the other objective is regime change. So let's see how the objectives go. They got 3 objectives. Up to now, 0 has been accomplished, but it's something to just keep in mind as we navigate the next number of days to see the Israeli-Iran, war that's going on between them.
And as soon as you hear the words modern day Hitler, you know you're in a psyop. You know you're in a narrative now.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go
By the way,
to Dr. Mike.
Sorry,
Go ahead,
Shlomo, I looked up Dr. Robert Papp's background. And he's got a PhD in political science. He's not a physicist or an engineer, and he's making these claims as theoretically as possible to penetrate, a mountain layer rock, which is a solid rock. It's not even a layered rock, successfully. This guy's not even qualified to speak on this. Just want to let you know who that guy is.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, look, he may be wrong about the kind of the number of times required, although he did say multiple, but I think we're in agreement with him, right, that it would take multiple hits in the exact precise same location to even have a possibility of taking it out. So I guess in that way we don't disagree with him. One hit would definitely not do the job, is basically one of the main arguments he's making. And he's even said multiple hits in the same area won't get the job done. He's literally saying multiple hits in precisely the same area precisely the same point would get the job done. So I guess we don't completely disagree with his point. Dr. Michael, jump in.
This is a 30-ton bunker buster. It's freaking heavy. It's not going to be easy to transport, so they're going to have to get up high in the sky, hope it lands undetected. I mean, good luck. It's cope, but okay.
Yeah, I agree. It's not going to be easy. And so this is what makes it interesting, and let's see what happens with the US. I think Trump's just going to, if Trump joins, this is going to be the biggest epic failure in American history from Trump, from a multitude of factors. And it's quite clear from this now that the Israelis do not have the capability to stop Iran's nuclear capability. So therefore, what is going on? What is the reason for this? It's an important question to know. Dr. Michael, jump in.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out in the sort of MAGA non-interventionist camp, you have a figure, Charlie Kirk, who's now talking about, talking down regime change, and talking that down, but they're making it look like now the choice is between regime change and just bombing for nuclear, disarmament or disablement. So, so even so I mentioned something to Charlie Kirk that I thought this was just moving the goalposts and it's a straw man what they're up to. And he actually wrote me on Twitter. He wrote me a DM and said, look, this is what Israel's stated goal is regime change. And this is what Lindsey Graham is talking about. So now they're trying to make it a false choice between regime change and just nuclear disarmament. So I'm just telling you what the pitch they're giving their constituents, that MAGA crowd. That's what they're telling them. They're running all kinds of psyops on these people.
Can I just also point out, if regime change was genuinely the goal, America has a significantly higher success rate at doing it covertly. Doing it overtly is like, it's they would always the tactics that they've always used is covert regime change. It's like their highest success rate. To do it overtly is, I mean, that's why this is not. I don't think it's to be taken seriously.
No, I don't think that's tenable at all. I'm just trying to say that they're throwing that out there as a false choice so that people will then back down to, oh, we'll just do a nuclear disarmament because regime change is untenable. That's what I think they're up to. They're trying to turn the
I was going to say I see that a little bit differently, in that guys like Ron Levin, Ben Shapiro, and formerly you would count Charlie Kirk among those ilk. At least I would, on that side of quote unquote MAGA. The evangelical side, the ones that are making the religious-based arguments for this intervention, and they were always about regime change. That was always the stated goal for that group, and they've been crowing about it for decades, in part because of the "Destroy America" rhetoric, and we saw that recently again in their House of Representatives, whatever it's called. And I see what Kirk's doing is fracturing from the party line, the hardcore line, and presenting to MAGA that there's actually a choice in terms of how far we should be encouraging Trump to go. I see it as a fractioning of his relationship with that crew that still is calling and demanding for regime change. And I've done my own poll, talked to a lot of people, have a lot of connections in MAGA. The biggest influencers that I know, at least on Spaces, and I know most of them, not all of them, agreed in multiple spaces over the last 2 days that we need to demand that Trump provide us proof of the claims of both Trump and Bibi, that he come to Congress, present the evidence, and ask for a declaration of war, which is called for by the Constitution. He hasn't done that, and I would expect if Trump was serious about intervention, that he would do that. I would say that would be consistent with his character, with his promises, and how he governed in 2016 and 2020, and also based on the criticisms he made of the Biden administration over the last 4 years. So I see it in a slightly different tenor. I don't attribute a sort of malicious intent on Charlie's part, but he certainly is part of that. I'll call him the far right, the neoconservatives of MAGA. He's certainly been part of that. And I was actually surprised to see Charlie, who I would account among the Christian evangelical crowd, to be congratulating him for breaking that party line. That's what it is he's doing.
No, that's not what's happening at all. What's happening is he's getting talking points. This guy, he's getting to.
Sentence. You stated as a declarative sentence, Doctor, and it sounds like it's personal.
No, it's not personal. It's
temper our comments with a little bit of humility, okay?
No, I'm just telling you that he gets.
Guys, calm down 1 second. There's no need to argue about this.
This is very well known that he gets talking points.
Doctor, can you not hear me, Dr. Michael?
I'm sorry. Yes.
I get to express myself in my opinion.
I was about to say, Doc, you need I'm saying let Dr. Michael go because you may disagree with him, but actually I am interested in thinking and hearing his analysis of why he thinks Charlie Kirk may have gone against a position or which we would normally assume he would have. I want to hear his thought on that. So go ahead, Dr. Michael.
Thanks. So what I was saying is, look, Charlie Kirk admittedly gets talking points. He's in the White House loop. The guy gets talking points from the White House. I've seen him say exactly verbatim what the White House talking points say. So this is not some sort of organic fissure inside of the MAGA movement where he's concerned. This is kind of you've got to look at this guy as a propagandist. That's what he does. He's working as a propagandist. He's not, this is not some sort of,
No, but Dr. Michael, let me ask you a question, because then let's try and figure out what you're trying to say here. So, now let me just put this tweet in the nest, and then let's talk about this. So the first one is the tweet in the nest, which is half of the stores have closed their doors in Tel Aviv due to the Iranian strikes, and the markets are empty. That tweets in the nest. Things aren't looking good for the Israelis, and they're just gonna get worse as time goes on. Dr. Michael. So let's just try and
Sully,
tease out the point
I
you're
just
trying to
want to say
make.
something. Added to that, breaking news. Quds News Network is saying that the Union of Industrial Cities in Haifa says it opposes restoring and repairing the Bazan refinery following the Iranian missile strike, warning that the facility poses a threat to the surrounding area.
Awesome. Yeah. So there's that as well, because Haifa refinery was also shut down for at least a month, and I guess you're trying to state that it should maybe shut down for even longer because of the current situation. Dr. Michael, just to try and tease out your point or the statement you made. So you're making the argument that Charlie, and by the way, I don't disagree with that argument, but I'm trying to link it to the kind of a greater point you're trying to make. The Charlie Kirk takes talking points from the Trump administration, but over the last week or so, the Trump administration or Trump has been given the indication that he is going to go to war with Iran, that this is a direction that they're going to take, to the point where the last couple of days we thought it's a given, it's happening. And so when you take that into consideration, and if Charlie Kirk is taking talking points from them, are you then making the argument that the Trump administration wanted one of their loyalists to counter signal them, or to give two different positions to the world? Or what's the point? I'm trying to understand. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's management. So let's get the premise first. It's management of this group. Look, Charlie, you've got a whole hell of a lot of MAGA followers. So he manages this population to the degree possible. That's what his role is. So he's trying to put up, instead of like a binary that it's either no war or war, he's now putting up this false binary that it's either war for regime change or war for nuclear disarmament. So this is how they're trying to shift the opinion of the MAGA base by pushing them towards war, subtly changing the terms under consideration, moving the goalposts, and effectively erecting a straw man. We're not arguing whether it's regime change or nuclear disarmament. We don't want them to bomb Iran at all. And that's what I'm saying. They're putting up false narratives and false binaries in order to fool their population into supporting this. And the reporting that I see, and I take Seymour Hersh's reporting very seriously, is he's suggesting that his sources tell him there are strikes imminent as early as this weekend. So that's what I'm hearing.
So if I could just respond, I think Sully kind of hit on it, and I thought maybe showed you a path to what I think is really what's happening, is Trump himself is reconsidering his position to the extent that he was dogged in assisting in bombing, and his rhetoric was consistent with that, or he was, in my estimation, playing both ends against the middle, giving both the Israelis and the Iranians threats and promises at the same time. It's a shit and tickle, slap and tickle, excuse me, sort of approach. I don't think there's going to be an attack. I don't think an attack is imminent. I wouldn't repeat something like that unless I actually knew exactly what the quote was and who was quoting what source, and was that source credible. We need to temper down the sort of passions and try and move toward peace, at least in our rhetoric here on space. So no, I think Trump is his commitment to assisting in the attack on Iran, if it ever existed, I think is being tempered. And what they're doing is using Charlie Kirk to the extent that they are demanding that Kirk, share an opinion that's not his. I don't think he's why he may be engaged in propaganda. I wouldn't accord him as being a propagandist. He seems to go his own way, dictated by his version of scripture more than any sort of loyalty to Trump. And the guy doesn't need the money actually, but you're right. He could be a loyalist and just repeating the White House line. And I see his movement from straight regime change, which was always sort of his demand, based on Christian fundamentalist and evangelical principles. I see this as a hopeful sign that beyond the fact that because Charlie Kirk says it, he's not convincing anybody. There's been several polls. If you check out the MAGA Space hosts, a guy like Gary Cardone, who put up a post. He's a billionaire, and he's tickled into California politics in support of Trump. He put a poll up. It's 80-20, don't attack, no war, among the conservative base. So I think that Trump,
Charlie Kirk's own poll was 90-10, Doc, as well.
I mean,
90% of his base said don't attack.
it's clear cut that those neocons.
But that's in line with America, right, Doc? Sorry, I'm interrupting, but that's in line with America. Like, it's only 15% to 19% of America actually support an attack. So these polls are actually in line with the American polls. The whole of America is against this, largely speaking.
It's like I said, I've been taking the tone and temperament of MAGA over the last 3-4 days, and I think it's almost universal among the people that you and I would both recognize as influential MAGA hosts. Mays here, of course, is one of those influential hosts. So I continue to be hopeful. I really couldn't manage emotionally to be involved in this to the extent that I am. Forget the extent that you and Khaleesi and others on this space have dedicated to this issue. Without being hopeful, without looking through the fog of the propaganda on both sides, Doctor, and the overwhelming amount of it, assisted by AI, assisted by the control of the media, assisted by the control of the intelligence agencies all over the world, that America and possibly the world sees this question, at least in accord with my opinion, the right way. That war is not the answer. We're tired of war. And so many of us, particularly in the MAGA base, believe that 9/11 was a fraud, that these wars, these endless wars, are not to our advantage. They never have been. And people here are exhausted economically, politically, by the double whammy of COVID and then the Biden administration really attacking the economics of living in this country in a somewhat bountiful way. Middle class has been destroyed, along with the middle class around the world, because of these globalist policies. So Trump's got a huge base of popularity here that will almost always support him. Sometimes to an extent that I think is destructive to our principles. That being, I see those who suggest that it's okay to go to war if Trump says so. And I think that's a dangerous fringe, but it's still out there. So to the extent that there is a fringe out there, and they are dangerous, and there are people on both sides that are hopeful for a fight, hopeful for the bombing, hopeful for the destruction. Look, there's a better way to solve these problems, and I'm glad, at least in my opinion, that Trump seems to be taking them.
Just to add some credence to actually, this is interesting. Well, I'll come to that in a second. I'll probably post it now, but just to add some credence to the point Dr. Michael is making, because I was just looking at Charlie Kirk's posts, and it does seem to be that he's trying to give two pathways, and maybe he is trying to kind of manufacture some kind of false choice, because in here he says you can make an argument for America striking Iran's nuclear facilities. So you can make an argument for America striking Iran's nuclear facilities. Trump, to his credit, has been consistent on that for 15 years. But regime change, I explain why that would be a huge mistake. So he is talking about striking nuclear facilities, but then being against regime change. So I think that's the argument Doc was making. We'll have to Dr. Michael, so we'll have to see back. I see what both of you are saying. Let's go to Daniel while I pull out this tweet.
Thanks, Fully. Well, I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, is cue the false flag. Like, listen, we're about to find out if Israel is like gonna do, if Trump is under the thumb of Israel, or if Israel is gonna do whatever the hell they want and disobey the hegemony that is the United States. And I'm going to go with the second one. Not saying that Israel doesn't have undue influence over U.S. politics. We all fucking know they do. My point is simply that does anyone in this space really think that Net and Satan Yahoo is going to go the way Trump wants him to go? I mean, show of hands, anyone? Is he gonna follow suit with this New York Times report that says U.S. intelligence thinks that? By the way, what kind of sense does that make? U.S. intelligence thinks that if I mean, we've been told nonstop here that for 30 years that Iran is on the verge of developing a nuclear weapon. Now all of a sudden we're supposed to believe that if we take out the supreme leader or bomb this facility, that they'll definitely, make a nuclear bomb then. It's like, come on, man. This is retarded, in my opinion. So I don't believe any of it. That's the stance I'm taking. I mean, everybody that thinks this is a huge win, that this New York Times report came out, I don't believe any of it.
Appreciate that, Daniel. Some breaking news, guys, and I think it's a very ominous possible positive news. I know it was scheduled prior, but happening right now, and it has become beneficial. But it is that Trump and Bannon had lunch together today, according to a senior White House official. Remember, Steve Bannon has been a major supporter of Trump, but also he's been one of the most vocal people about being against the war with Iran. Remember, he's a massive Trump supporter. He was really attacking Trump, Musk, over the post that he did about Trump and his links to Epstein. But in terms of that, he has been very much vehemently against the war in with Iran, and he's just met Trump for lunch today. So hopefully he's had those conversations with him, and maybe that's maybe, I'm not saying it's the reason, but could have had an impact on his change of direction. There is a statement from Seymour Hersh, who believes that the US bombing will begin on the weekend, but we'll have to see on that. That's Seymour Hersh's prediction. He's the one who exposed the fact that US or its allies bombed Nord Stream. So yeah, that's another important point to note. Let's go to Richard. And guys, if you're requesting, I do check if you're following, and if you're following, then I bring you up. And if you could do me a favor, go to my profile, hit the follow, and hit the notifications. We've been going on this space now for 8 days. We've crashed a few times and we've started immediately, but because a lot of you, thousands and thousands upon you, have gone to our profile, hit the follow button, hit the notifications, you've been alerted immediately, and that means as soon as that's happened, straight away, like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people, depending on what time, is immediately come back to the space. And that's because you've got the notifications. Without the blue badge, you won't know that I started the space. So if you go to my profile, hit the follow, hit the notifications, you will be aware immediately. This is a movement. You guys have impacted the zeitgeist more than anything else. I'm not saying we are directly responsible, but if you look at the large part of the X being anti-war, even speaking out against what Trump was planning, I think we've had an influential impact. We've had billions of views, millions of people on these spaces, called out the hypocrisy of MAGA when they claimed they were anti-war, almost pressured them into taking a consistent stance. And so you guys have been extremely impactful, so we need to continue doing that. You don't understand how impactful X is. It is the most impactful. We're one nation under his head. Ideology perspective and a policy perspective. So continue doing what you're doing. You're making a huge difference. And if I didn't think so, I'm not exaggerating. I wouldn't be doing this space, because it's not easy doing the 24/7. A lot of effort has been put in by Khaleesi, Mays, Truth, Simon, all the people on the panel who've been on here, Public, Nathan, Didi, all these people have been providing a lot of support and help, and all the people I haven't mentioned, Hussein, Morfair, Casey, every single person has been providing a huge amount of support and help. All the panelists who I've not even mentioned. It's not been easy running for 8 days straight. Lack of sleep, hours of sleep, trying to get a few hours in here and there. So I appreciate it. And if we didn't think it would make a difference, trust me, it's not like, one can be offline and making a lot of money. So in reality, it's because we believe it's making a difference. We're doing that. So from your perspective, if you guys can do me a favor, and go to my profile, hit the follow, and hit the notification so you're aware as soon as we restart. Richard, jump in.
Thanks, Sully. Yeah, I agree that I would not discount the impact that information and intel that gets shared on this platform, through posts and shared in spaces. Don't discount that it has a huge global geopolitical impact, and it is also, as we had discussed a little bit earlier, it's kind of a temperature taking mechanism of, what if we leak this out, this idea out, see how the public
Move
reacts
away,
to it, and then when
everyone.
they get the
From a war
visceral,
zone. I'm
polarizing,
Israeli. I need entry right.
rushback,
Move away, everyone. I'm fleeing
the
from a war
government,
zone. I'm Israeli.
oftentimes
I need entry
you'd be
right now.
shocked by how often that happens. They decide to go on a different route because it's not politically or
What brings you to
societally
Romania?
expedient
There are
for
bombs
them and their
everywhere.
maintenance
Iran
of,
hit Tel Aviv.
this
Pray
control
for us.
apparatus
Pray
that they
for
have.
us.
So
Of
I don't
course.
think, I
Ladies and
don't see
gentlemen,
any way
attention.
where
Let's pray on Israel.
Israel
For Israel.
utilizes
Dear
a
God,
tactical nuke.
may
They're
you
not,
bless them
like,
all.
is it
My
possible?
English
There's
is
a
not very
difference
good,
between
actually.
possible,
Okay.
or
Everyone
theoretically
now
possible or technically
kneel
possible
before the
and
passport of
plausible.
divine
It's,
entitlement.
is there a
I want to talk
non-zero
with your
chance
boss.
that
I want
Israel
to
can
talk with a
destroy
higher up right now. Of course, let me call
the
God. I
Fordo
hear he's
reactor
the real
without
estate agent who gave you the
the
deed to
United
someone else's house.
States' direct involvement?
Hello, God. Is
Yes,
Nadia
there
here?
is a
I'm
non-zero
having here one of your
chance,
chosen tenants.
but
Yeah.
it
It's
is
having a
not
mental
going
breakdown
to
at the
happen
immigration.
without the United States
He wants a
involvement.
global do-over, if it's possible.
And
being
if
persecuted right now.
the United States
Persecuted?
or
My dear, you're just
Israel
standing in
decides to
line
use
for
a
passport
tactical
control,
nuke,
not Nuremberg.
Russia and the Chinese will destroy Dimona within 48 hours. And then you'll have oil prices will be at $200. And they will basically constrict Middle East gas prices to such an extent that we'll actually have to consider opening some of our own shales, which would take six months at the most optimistic estimates and 18 months at the more realistic estimates. And life in the United States, even if we weren't attacked directly, would become even worse than it has been throughout the entirety of the Biden administration, where every decision that they made was exclusively and obviously for the benefit of Israel and this global Jewry Bolshevik apparatus that we're up against. I agree with Dr. Mike, who said um, it's like they're trying to figure out which narrative, by throwing darts at a dartboard, and which one they decided going in, long before their first offensive against Iran, that they were going to go in because this is part of their Israel's exclusively overarching and NATO's agenda, and they are now almost making the narrative that they attach to it is as malleable as whatever they think will resonate with not just Americans but everybody else in the world. And unfortunately,
كيس
I don't
الطحين
know that
الذي
they've ever
حاول
been in a
الحصول
position like
عليه
this where
كما تشاهدون من أجل هذا
it's almost
الكيس يسقط
impossible
هذا المواطن
for them to
في منطقة
reclaim
السودانية في
the
شمال
narrative
قطاع
of
غزة.
moral
هذا
high
هو
ground or
المشهد
any
وهذا هو
wide-scale
السعي من
support.
أجل الكيس
And
الدقيق.
to
سقط
the person
هذا
that
الرجل في
said,
شمال قطاع غزة من أجل
I think it might
الحصول
have been
على
you, Sully, who
المساعدات
was reading the
والمجازر
tweet about us. The
الإسرائيلية التي
IDF had,
ترتكب بحق
existed
المواطنين في
in the
منطقة
days of
السودانية.
Hitler. They would have, taken him out before he had a chance to, Holocaust the Jews and cause mass scale Aryan supremacy. Well, unfortunately, the IDF did exist before World War II. It was just called a different name. It was called a couple of names, most notably Haganah and Lehigh, the Stern Gang. And they were created with the express purpose to engage in terroristic acts against the British officials honoring the Palestinian mandate prior to the formal establishment of Israel, and they were also created to commit, unrequited terror against Palestinians and Arabs, men, women, and children, all because they didn't trust the British. Told us they're in the deal post signing of the Balfour Declaration. And so Israel created literal terror cells that then, after the formalization of the state of Israel and Israel got its independence in 48, it then became a sugar-coated diplomatic version that is seen to be formal and official. And that's what we got from Haganah becoming the Israeli Defense Forces, and then
So just some breaking news. Photos of the remnants of an Israeli drone downed by Iranian air defense in the province of Merkazi. Richard, go ahead, jump in. I just finished the point you were saying.
yeah, and I appreciate you mentioning that. The they formalized the Israeli Defense Forces and the Central um, Center for Coordination, which became the Mossad. They just threw government official, Israeli state names behind these same groups, but you had Ergun and Haganah and parts of even Lehi, the terrorist organizations that were militant Zionists, which predate Bibi Netanyahu and the Likud party. But the Likud party that is run by Netanyahu now is just the continuation of that, which was originally framed by guys like Rabbi Stephen S. Weiss and Zayev Jabotinsky. I mean, these were, and Menachem Begin. He was the first. He was basically the apprentice of Zayev Jabotinsky, and they made him the sixth prime minister of
Just some more
Israel.
breaking news, and Richard, you can wrap up your point in 10 minutes, because I do want to bring in a few more other people into the conversation, but do stay on and do continue giving your input. But just on this breaking news as well, Israeli airstrikes unrashed the northwest of the Iranian capital of Tehran. Israeli airstrikes unrashed the northwest of the Iranian capital of Tehran. That's happening right now. Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, and the last thing that I'll say is that what I am hearing, Suli, that I think is relevant
Some more
to.
breaking news.
Uh,
Sorry, Iranian air defenses down. Iranian air defenses down Zionist drone near Tehran. Iranian television reports that an Israeli drone was shot down in Kahrizak, located south of the capital of Tehran. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's it. Do continue, Richard. Wrap up your part, please.
Yeah, the last thing I was gonna say is what I have been hearing is the same that I've echoed, and you kind of brought attention to it. The 2 weeks is a way of kind of taking the pressure out of this tension chamber. But watch out for the Iranians to go after Dimona. I am hearing that that is their next target, that they are going to try to destroy the Dimona reactor, and anyone who wants peace in the world and all this perpetual war to cease and global blackmail of the Samson option should pray for those who are executing such an operation and for their success and safety.
Appreciate that. Let's go to Damien. Damien, jump in with your thoughts.
Hi, thank you. Evening, everyone. I just wanted to make a couple of very brief points. The first one is obviously a critical question to ask is who is winning the war? I think the short answer to that question is if Israel were winning, then Benjamin Netanyahu wouldn't have needed to ask for Donald Trump's help. I think the longer answer to the question is that while Iran is methodically and clinically destroying Israel's military and economic infrastructure and causing minimal loss of life, Israel is killing a lot of people, but it isn't able to destroy Iran's military capability.
Doesn't that mean Israel's Damien? Does that not mean Israel's winning according to Israel's own parameters of success and failure, which is the number of innocent human beings they can kill?
By their standards, perhaps, but of course the reason.
Sorry, let me just give this announcement. I'll give it straight back to you. Sorry, that was a bit of a joke, but not a joke actually. There's a lot of it is definitely entrenched in reality. I got a tweet in the nest. We spoke yesterday, or was it today? All days are meshed into one. It's day number 9, or day number 10. We've been going for what, almost 200 hours. Smashed to everyone who's contributed, but we spoke yesterday or today about that Ukrainian woman who was not allowed into the shelter because she was not Jewish. Well, there's another video. Here you can see Zionism, Jewish supremacy exposed during the Iranian strike. A Druze man was denied entry into a shelter after he was heard speaking Arabic. So once again, this Jewish supremacy rears its ugly head, where a Druze man, he's not a Muslim, a Druze man was not allowed into the bomb shelter because he was not Jewish. Zionism, Jewish supremacy exposed in real time. Go ahead, Damien, do finish your point. And that tweet's in the nest, retweet it, reshare it, expose this supremacy. Damien, sorry, do continue.
I think Israel is intentionally trying to kill large numbers of people as part of its strategy for regime change. But I think it's futile. I think what's happening at the moment is so Israel's unable to destroy Iran's military capability because it's too deep underground. As you've already been discussing, even America's bunker busters aren't able to reach Iran's missile stocks. I think it's also worth pointing out, when we're considering trying to evaluate who's winning, that Israel's F-35 warplanes can't destroy ballistic missiles in flight, and also that Iran has destroyed 4 F-35s. I've checked the numbers on how many F-35s Israel has. It only has 40 in service. So in less than a week, Iran's destroyed 10% of Israel's most advanced aircraft fleet. Some other factors in play are that I think you've also already mentioned is that Israel's interceptor missile stocks are running low, and also the Iron Dome's interception rate has fallen since the beginning, since Israel launched its illegal and unprovoked attack on Iran. The interception rate of the Iron Dome has fallen from 90% to 65%, and I think we can expect it to fall even further because Iran is now deploying hypersonic missiles, and those missiles can reach Israel in less than 5 minutes. And also, of course, Iran has a very large stock of missiles. So I think when you take all of those factors into account, in my view, it's clear that Iran is winning the war and Israel is losing. And it follows from that losers don't dictate terms, settlement terms. And I think that this is where this affects the negotiations with Trump, because Trump isn't holding any cards. Iran's holding all the cards. And actually, the negotiations themselves are very straightforward as negotiations go, because Donald Trump doesn't want Iran to have nuclear weapons, and then Iran doesn't want to have nuclear weapons. So it's a very straightforward negotiation. It's the most simple aspect of this whole situation. So I think, as Iran is winning, it has got leverage on those negotiations, and I think it should make some additional demands now. I think it should insist that Israel withdraws its troops from Gaza as part of the settlement, and allows international peacekeeping forces to go in to protect the Palestinians and protect Gaza, so the IDF can't go back in again, because there's one thing that we know for certain, and that is that the Americans and Israeli governments cannot be trusted. And so, yeah, I think it's time for Iran to use the leverage that it's gained from winning the war. And that's all I had to say, really.
Uli, have you heard of a bank run on the National Bank of Israel? Earlier today, they weren't giving out money. That would be huge to have that confirmed.
I've not heard about that. Do explain.
Yeah,
I
so
thought Bill Ackman loves his bank runs when it's against the United States of America, so I'm guessing he'll support that.
yeah, so Israel's banks weren't giving out money or their ATMs, which could be a sign that either it's mass scale or there's consolidation into one bank, which would most likely be the Bank of Israel, which is tied right in with Lumi and the Aladdin platform. So that would be extremely interesting and indicative of the confidence of the socioeconomic situation in the wake of this war for the Israelis directly.
Well, I mean, that's a really good point, because we're just talking so far about, war, missiles, warplanes. The economic aspect of this has really not. Iran has really only played one card so far, and it's got plenty more to play. So I don't think that America was so concerned that Yemen's armed forces put a blockade on the Red Sea, because that mostly affected European countries. It didn't affect America, but of course, the Straits of Hormuz, that affects America significantly. And the other thing is, this really could turn into a much wider problem for America, because it can't diminish Iran's military capability, and if it becomes overtly involved in the war against Iran, then its military bases in its client states will be attacked, and all of the Arab leaders who have betrayed the Palestinians will lose their bodyguards, and they will be there for the taking. So, we could have a domino effect across the Middle East, which will topple all of the Arab leaders who have betrayed the Palestinians, and that will lead to a reconfiguration in the Middle East. And it's also, this is before that's just Iran standing up for itself against Israel, and we're not even talking. Well, you have talked about this, but I haven't even talked about the fact that Russia and China will not permit Iran to fall, because they've got their own reasons for it. China's energy, Russia's, the West always comes through Iran to attack Russia. So, they are doubly reinforced by the largest country in the world, and arguably the most powerful country in the world. So, I think it's Israel is, if it doesn't come to a negotiated settlement, is at risk of total defeat.
Yeah. I put a tweet in the nest. It's a tweet by Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran. And he says, any Muslim who denies Jesus Christ's and St. Mary's infallibility is rejected by Islam. This is how Islam respects Jesus and Mary. Peace be upon them. So I wrote, Iran's leader respects Jesus and Mary. What's the Israeli position? That tweet is in the nest. Check it out. What I was gonna bring in, I forgot who I was gonna bring in now, but jump in, Mr. Kaplan. Mr. Kaplan, you're on the space and you have raised your hand. Okay.
Sorry, what did you say?
No, I was talking to the speaker, Mr. Kaplan, but he's raised his hand, but he didn't speak. You continue doing your job. Make sure you're cooking that steak nice. Let's go to Truth Signal. I believe you sent me a message. You wanted to contribute to the conversation. Go ahead.
Yes, hello, brother. Thank you. Yes, I've talked with some of my family members inside of Iran, and the current situation that's going on there is that Israel is currently doing massive attacks on civilian infrastructure and population in order to try to make a regime change. So they're doing these attacks so it creates panic and fear and anger amongst the people, and in order to try to make them go against the regime. Yeah, so that's some intel I have at the moment on what's going on. Thank you.
What's your thoughts about what's going on? Because I'm sure you sent me bare messages that you wanted to contribute to the conversation.
Can you repeat?
What's your thoughts about what's happening between overall as well in terms of what's happening between Iran and Israel?
It's horrific the crimes Israel is doing. It's against humanity, and this is not only for to change the. Sorry for my English. To change the regime, and this is more than just change the Middle East. This is going. If Israel and US wins this war, it's going to change the whole geopolitics in the entire world. Like China's gonna get vulnerable, Russia and many other countries that's currently standing up against this genocidal regime, and the US. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thanks for coming up and giving your perspective. I'll bring this guy up. He was not speaking last time, so it's a bit strange. In the meantime, Damien, let me ask you a question. What's your thoughts on UK? The UK obviously had their Cobra meeting yesterday. There is kind of this idea that if the US join in, then the UK will join in as well. UK is failing considerably in all aspects of life. What's your thoughts about if the UK were to join and the implications of that?
So the Keir Starmer is obviously a loyal servant of the American empire. He has been doing their dirty work for a long time now, going back to his time as the Director of Public Prosecutions. He was involved in keeping Assange incarcerated. He covered up MI5, MI6 involvement in torture. So he's doing as he's told. But regarding the UK's involvement, obviously the UK is heavily involved in. Keir Starmer is complicit in the genocide of the Palestinians. He has ordered the SAS to be involved in Gaza, targeting Palestinians. He has allowed the Cyprus Air Base to be used to carry out spying missions for Israel's F-35 warplanes to drop bombs on Palestinian civilians. So Keir Starmer's up to his neck in it. Regarding the attack on Iran, there's not really much that he can offer in way of support. F-35s are they're not touching the sides as far as damaging Iran's military capability. Even the bunker busters won't work. He was talking about possibly offering support refueling, because of course now Iran has targeted Israel's refineries, including its refinery for fuel for their warplanes. Then there's going to be a whole logistical piece of work to be done there to keep those F-35s and other warplanes in the air and refueled. So also knowing that Keir Starmer is a pathological liar, nothing he says can be believed. He lied to become elected Labour leader. He stood on an entirely false prospectus. He stood on an entirely false perspective to become the Prime Minister of the UK. So nothing he says in public can be believed. So when he says, oh, you know, we're not going to be involved, I don't believe, only a fool would believe an habitual liar like Keir Starmer. So he will, there's no doubt in my mind, he'll be helping in the background, but I think that help will be limited, as I say, to refueling flights and things like that. There's nothing that he can do to sway things Israel's way. If he could do something, he would, though. He is, of course, a self-declared, unqualified supporter of Zionism, a supremacist ideology. So really, Zionism is rather like the Ku Klux Klan.
Appreciate that, Damien. I was going to say something, but what? So, Truth. Are you there?
Yes.
I'm just looking at this 984 account. It's properly crashing out. If you look at this latest tweet, it goes, or one of the tweets goes, the destruction of Israel has always been their goal. We're going full on Zion mode. I told you, bro. Anyone who attacks me, always Zions. They pretend to be anti-Israel, pro-Palestine. In this situation, anti-Jew, but it's always something.
Wait, what did he
nefarious
say?
going. He said the destruction of Israel has always been their goal. That he's like basically defending the fact that
What
Israel will be
the
defended.
what? That's
Exactly.
crazy.
Bro, I told you, like a lot of these agents, like they're exposing themselves now. Let me bring in some more people, guys. If you're in the region, if you're in Iran, if you're in any other situation, you want to give us news or updates, do send me a message, and I will try and bring you up. But yeah, do that. Let's do bring some people up though. I'm gonna bring some people up just to give people.
I don't know what the hell they put
While
in
there's
that
no
Texas
major
water,
breaking
man.
news, I'll bring some people up. Sorry, go ahead, Moffat.
Yeah, I was just saying, I don't know what the hell they put in that Texas water, man. That there's a lot of people down there that they just like, even when they know what's going on, they still somehow support Israel. You know, it just is what it is, I guess. They're
But
putting
this
something
was
down
like
there
a
in that water.
prominent. This one was a prominent anti-Jew account, and now he's like full on Zion mode. That's interesting. Let's go to.
Billy, you can drop me real quick. I gotta step away, but I'll be back. Thanks, guys.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, whenever someone needs to leave, you can just leave. You don't need to announce it. But I appreciate you coming on. Let's go to. Oh, my boy Ryan Myron's requesting. Let's bring him up. Awesome.
Oh, big time shout out. This is about to get lit, guys. Hit that repost button too, by the way. Shout out to Suleiman covering the breaking live news as well. Tune in.
Hi, Myron. How you doing? How's things?
I'm on stream right now, and I figured I would come in. I was covering a press conference that Trump had a little bit earlier in the White House. What's the latest, man? I haven't been, actually like following the news. I figured I would just come in now because I'm going to start covering the war now. So the last I heard was we had the the hospital situation where first it was reported by the Israeli media that a hospital was attacked by Iran. Then other information came out saying, no, it wasn't the hospital that was attacked. They just, the reason why it got destroyed is because of the shockwaves from attacking a military installation close to the hospital. So I don't know if anyone can like kind of clarify what the official narrative is with that now, because I'm sure obviously in the fog of war, when things just happen, there's information all over the place if that's been corrected. And then what's the latest as far as Iranian strikes and Israeli strikes?
Yeah, so from Israel's perspective, they continue to perpetuate the propaganda that the hospital was hit. So they've not changed their stance whatsoever. Obviously, our stance, as we've demonstrated through the various imagery and information that was relayed during that time, that this was something that the military base was hit, and it was the shockwaves that hit Israel. Nobody was killed. A few people they claim, according to the Israeli side, had minor injuries, and a number of people had to be relocated. So the Iranian position is that the hospital was never targeted. The Israeli position is that the hospital was targeted.
Gotcha. Okay, so Israel's still sticking to Iran attacking them, and then the other media is saying that it was shockwaves.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I saw Yosef Haddad had put a fucking video out, but I think it was in Hebrew, so I couldn't understand it. But all right, what else as far as are there any other attacks as far as what's going on? I see that you guys put up here in this thing, Khomeini talking about Jesus.
Yeah. This was just me showing how Iran leader Khamenei, he said, any Muslim who denies Jesus Christ and Saint Mary's infallibility is rejected by Islam. This is how Islam respects Jesus and Mary. And then I just wrote, Iran leader respects Jesus and Mary. What's the Israeli position on them? So, go ahead, Marin.
No. We know what it is. I mean, yeah, they hate Jesus, bro. You know.
Exactly. Well, Ben Shapiro called him a rebel and somebody who went against, and basically was somebody who was illegitimate. The Israeli position in the Talmud is that he's obviously in hellfire. So yeah, that's their position for sure.
And till this day, they occupy Bethlehem. Till this day, they occupy the Christians in Palestine. On a lot of the Christian holidays, they don't let the Christians in the churches in Jerusalem as well. So I just wanted to add that in there as well, that they do not like Christians. They hate Christians. Thank you as well, So They Man, for highlighting that. If you guys are tuned in right now, hit that repost button on that post above. Repost the hell out of that, because it just goes to show this is what America doesn't want you guys to know. They think that they want you guys to think that the Muslim guys hate all of America and hate Jesus Christ, you know, and Israel loves Jesus Christ. That's what they want you to think, but it's the complete opposite. Israel hates Jesus Christ. Israel bombs churches. We saw that in Lebanon as well. Israel literally doesn't let Christians go into their own churches, right? In Jerusalem. This is what Israel is about. So make sure to hit that repost button, share the hell out of it, guys.
And just on that, Myron, so in terms of since you've been on, there hasn't been a huge amount of news. And the only thing was Trump, which I'm sure you've covered, which is that Trump's kind of delayed his decision to possibly
2 weeks,
within
right?
the next. Sorry? Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
2
Exactly.
weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which kind of leads to the argument that was made by Simon, I would say, that this is more of a negotiation tactic as opposed to him actually deciding to go to war. The delay has either that reason, or it could be because maybe he's had some discussions and people have changed their mind, or he's basically seen the zeitgeist on social media and by his whole base, where they've basically pushed back significantly against it, as well as the polling in the United States of America, where nearly everybody's against it.
So, man, I want to add it really quick, and then back to you, Myron. Just really quick, guys. Another theory is that Trump is waiting for the carriers to reach Iran as well, as they're on their way. Go ahead, Myron.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is, okay, so Trump is in a very, very sensitive position right now, because, and I'll kind of go through this. I know I might sound a bit redundant to some of the speakers on here, because you guys have heard me say this, or for the Americans, but I know that we got, almost 5,000 people in here, and they might have never heard this before. So Trump's in a very sensitive situation right now, because when he campaigned in 2024, one of the things he campaigned on was no new wars. And he understands that there's two things that he has to worry about, right? So he campaigned on no new wars. But for Israel to get the job done, right, and allegedly take out this nuclear program, they need to destroy Fordo. The problem, though, is that Israel does not have the capability of destroying Fordo. They don't have the bunker buster bombs. We have the bombs. Now, even having the bombs doesn't guarantee Fordo's destruction, because not only are you gonna have to drop this 30,000-pound bomb on this fucking mountain, you're gonna have to do it multiple times. And it's still not a guarantee that you're gonna be able to destroy it. So on one end, Trump's battling with, am I gonna intervene? If I intervene, that is contrary to what I campaigned on. Now, I'm not saying that Trump cares about lying to his people or whatever, that lying to his base, he's done it before. I'm not saying that he's some ultimate warrior. But there's going to be negative consequences to him jumping into the war, and I'll cover that a little bit later. So he knows that it's a risky endeavor, because he's going to have to go ahead and mobilize that B-2. He's going to have to get that 30,000-pound bomb. He's going to have to go over the mountain and bomb it. Then he's going to have to do that again and again and again, and hope that the nuclear facility is destroyed. By doing that, he has basically opened the door for Iran to retaliate against the United States. Now, there's two things that can happen here, right? And this is why I was talking about this earlier in my stream, but I'm going to reveal it here. I think Iran has something more powerful than a nuclear bomb. They have an economic bomb. And that economic bomb is them creating absolute fucking turmoil for the rest of the world when it comes to destroying and or significantly hindering the oil markets. And I would argue that them doing that is worse than having a nuclear bomb. And I'll explain. If they had a nuclear bomb, right, like Israel says, worst case scenario, they fucking shoot a nuclear bomb at Tel Aviv, right? The loss of life would be great. It would be horrible. A lot of innocent people would die, right? It would be bad. But that tragedy would be reserved to the borders of Israel. However, if Iran does what I call the economic bomb, we're talking about global financial shutdown. 20% of the world's oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz. You guys all know this on the speaker thing, but for the audience here that's listening, they might not know that. That's a significant amount of oil that runs the world, okay? If it were to get shut down, that would be a big problem in itself. Now, if Iran were to take it a step further and say, you know what? Not only are we going to shut down the Strait of Hormuz and or make it hard for ships to get through here, we're also going to start striking strategic